Yeah, there's a reason me and my ex is attracted to each other is because all of us were toxic as fuck. What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the Unweighted Podcast. I am your host, Derek Peterson, and this is my co-host,
Hannah Stevens.
Yay! Things are working. We've had a little bit of a funky morning because Hannah is perpetually late for everything. So and I'm perpetually early, which makes everything way worse because I'm like, I've been ready for 45 minutes and you're just rolling in. So it's like,
Listen, I'm not
this is
perpetually late. I'm perpetually technologically challenged. That is the issue.
That's debatable. We've been friends for a while now. It's debatable, but this is
When else have I ever been late? Ever.
Ironically enough, we're talking about marriage today, and one of the biggest issues in my first marriage was this exact thing. My ex-wife was chronically late, and I was chronically early for everything. Like, she was so late to the point at times where it wasn't even worth going. Like,
Yeah.
we'd be like, she would be getting ready still 2 hours into a party, and I'm like,
We're not leaving. We're not going.
yeah, like it's a 40-minute drive to wherever we're going. Like, this makes no sense for us to even like try now.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's how it goes. Meaning I've been tried and tested in this area, and I have a lot of grace and
You've been prepared for this moment to have grace and understanding for a woman with a child.
I got a lot of patience built into this body now. There's a lot of miles on me. So good. Let's jump right in and start with the worst thing that happened this week. So
you go first.
I will say, I mean, it wasn't this wasn't a terrible thing. We took the family out to College Station. I mean, that's pretty bad because A&M.
I saw that.
Yeah, the Santa's Wonderland, and apparently, so we looked on the weather app, and it was only supposed to be, it was supposed to get down to like 60 degrees while we were there. So we packed like not winter coats, just like regular like long sleeve shirts, a vest, and we get out there and it's technically like 58 or 59 degrees, but the wind is blowing and it's so freaking cold. I mean, it literally felt like it was freezing. So we ended up I didn't, but Tamara ended up having to buy a hat, scarf, and another layer of clothing while we were there.
This is an expensive outing.
Yeah, the outing got very expensive very quickly because she was like,
I'm miserable.
Yeah, I'm miserable. And if I don't buy some stuff, I'm going to want to just go sit in the car for the rest of the time. So it happens.
It happens.
What about you?
Not so bad. Mine's not all that bad either because I've got coverage for it, but I had a fraudulent charge on one of my accounts that took out like almost $2,000 out of my account.
Ooh,
yeah.
That's a hefty one.
It is. So I'm having to stick around with that and work with my bank to get it back and prove that it wasn't me and all of that. So that was fun, but I'm confident I will get my money back.
Yeah, in recent years, they've actually been really great about that. Like,
yeah, they're not giving me any major pushback. They're just like, we just need to have proof that you weren't in this location and whatever. And I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure I wasn't in Kentucky. So
yeah, I think banks, I think what they see on their back end is pretty telling. So I think that they've gotten better at like, oh yeah,
it's like, obviously not you.
Yeah, like all of your spending is in Austin and there's one random charge in Kentucky and then back to Austin. So yeah. So I guess that means that if I really wanted to like try to commit fraud with my credit card, it's like fly to like
just for the day,
like really quickly. Or I guess you can't fly because then
there's record of
it. You'd have to like drive.
Drive hyperspeed
to like Oklahoma, buy a flat screen TV and drive back and claim it was fraudulent.
Yeah,
it's too much work. I'm not into it. Way too much work. I'll just buy the TV for myself. anyway. So, well, we're into a meaty topic today, so we're going to get into it pretty quickly. Today, we're going to talk about divorce, something both you and I have a lot of experience with.
A lot of experience.
I am 2 times divorced, 3 times married, and you are
Once
once
divorced,
divorced,
twice
twice
married.
married.
And
Uh,
TBD on the future for all of us, isn't it?
that's I think after being married 3 times, there
There are
is
no
a
guarantees.
there's
There
a
are no
gen
guarantees.
yeah, there's a general consensus of like, yeah, anything can change at any time. It doesn't matter
True
what
story.
somebody says to you or their commitment or their vows. They can, even if they're a high integrity human being, they can change
Yeah.
them at any time.
Yeah.
So
Which
for
which I think brings us to a really good point on this topic, which is if you've been divorced and it taints sort of how you feel about this idealistic view of marriage, is getting married even worth it again,
yeah,
when you've lost sort of the magic for what marriage should be? And I think yes, but I think you just have to have a different lens that you view marriage through, which is not that it has the potential for failure at all times, because I think that's a negative, pessimistic view, but a realistic view that says we're human beings that evolve, that fall short, that change their desires, and sometimes those things just don't keep you on the same path.
yeah, and I wanted to give a couple of statistics on this because I was reading
Yeah,
up on it prior to our podcast. So right now, the current statistics are a little over 50% of marriages end in divorce,
right.
which but it's interesting because if you look at just the last couple years, the statistics have actually dropped a little bit closer to 40%. And
Interesting.
I'll get into some thoughts that I have on that. But it does, so like, you know, the question you just brought up is a very honest question to bring up, because if there's a 50-50 shot of 50-50 shot of you making it, is it actually worth it? And I would actually say that I think that might actually be that question might be the reason we're seeing divorce rates
Hmm.
drop. I would argue, and this is just from my sphere and the people that I'm around
Sure.
regularly, but I have noticed that with the younger people I hang out with, there's much more hesitancy to get married.
Yeah,
They like most of the young people I know right now have waited a much longer period of time to get married if they're going
sure.
to get married
At all. Yeah.
at all. And two, yeah, they wait. Like they'll date forever before getting married. Whereas, like my first marriage, we dated for 9 months before we we were engaged after 6 months and
Oh,
married
wow.
after nine.
God, I
Uh
didn't know it was that fast.
yeah, my second marriage was even worse. We
Yeah, it was.
it
It was. I'm not gonna
was
shield you
worse.
from that one.
So that brings us to the question: why do people still get married, Hannah?
I think there's a lot of different reasons why people still get married. I can tell you why I got remarried, which is that I do believe in the idea of commitment, which isn't to say that you can't have commitment outside of marriage, but there is something about willingly, knowingly entering into something that requires a substantial amount of effort to get out of, right?
Yep.
There is something to be said for committing yourself to something that's not easily undoable. There's a willingness to work, there's a willingness to make sacrifice. And I also have some spiritual desires around marriage and what I think marriage can and um, should be for me spiritually. And so that was something that I wanted for myself still again. So yeah, it's not for everybody. I can certainly tell you that. But it was worth it for me to get married again because of how I felt about that commitment.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm married for the third time, so I clearly believe in the concept of marriage.
Yeah,
Um, I would say I was very idealistic about it growing up. I grew up in Utah where like family is kind of taught is your everything, and that fed into my upbringing. I didn't realize this, you don't realize that your childhood and a lot of what you're exposed to and the things that happen to you if you had traumatic experiences, all of these things like feed into your life decisions. And so when got married the first time, I got married thinking it was this noble, idealistic thing, like you get married and there is this unspoken pact. I mean, not unspoken. I guess you give vows, but even
Sure.
beyond that, there's this just pact. We're doing this together, right?
Yeah.
And there, because of some of the shit from my childhood, like being bullied growing up, it's like the experience of abandonment issues from, my dad and things that I processed through it as an adult. Now, when I look back on why I entered my first marriage as quickly as I did, we had none of our values aligned.
Yeah.
I got married and rushed into it because I wanted to build a situation where somebody wasn't going to leave me.
Yeah.
And so, and I couldn't have articulated that, prior to, because I hadn't done the work on myself.
Sure.
I didn't care about myself enough to actually do the work. I thought I was fine. And if you'd asked me about my childhood back then, I would have been like, yeah, everything's good. But
Normal.
there's this, yeah, and there is this sense, like if you have abandonment issues from your childhood or you've experienced anything like that, there is a lure to marriage
Sure.
that is unlike any other because
It's
the
validating.
yeah, the
Somebody
well,
wants me.
somebody wants me, but beyond that, the concept of, oh, I'm going to commit to you and you're going to commit to me, and that means you're with
You're
me
stuck. You're
forever. Yeah,
staying.
like it kind of like there's like this breath out for people with abandonment issues.
Sure.
And so if you have like the combo that I had, which is the worst, the people pleasing, Mr. Nice Guy complex along with abandonment issues, and the two often go hand in hand
Yeah.
because the way you try to solve your abandonment issues is by becoming a nice guy. But if you have both of those things, then the abandonment feels like torture. Like think the thought of somebody leaving you and the embarrassment around it and the feeling of like it happening almost like again there's like a visceral reaction to it.
Yeah.
um but the nice guy part of it, where you're constantly feeding, like prior to getting married, you're constantly presenting a version of yourself to somebody that's not fully accurate, which
Sure.
that's every dating
Normal.
relationship, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. We're all trying to present the best version of ourselves to another
Yeah.
person. But then
Yeah.
once you get married, you kind of like exhale and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, I can now just be myself because this person can't leave. And
Right.
then that person is left to then process who you actually are for the
Actually are.
first time.
Yeah.
And you're like, I can confidently say my first wife was pretty much like, what the fuck? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, like this is different. And she wouldn't be wrong.
Wrong. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think for me, if I had to summarize what I think is the main culprit behind why people get divorced most often is it is the space in between who you presented yourself as and who you really wanted to be and who you actually are. And the struggle between how you would get to be this person and if you're even actually capable of being this person, which I would say most people are not.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to be the best version of themselves, but so few people are actually capable of getting there because it's the space in between that's why you're not that person, why it's so hard, right?
Eh,
And the shitty part is we all want to be the best version of ourselves. We commit that to our spouses or significant others. Hey, I'm going to be better about this. I'm going to do this. I want to do this. But we lack the tool set for how to actually make those things happen. Meanwhile, that person is still going to hold us accountable to those promises and commitments we made because they deserve it. They
Yeah.
deserve to have the best version of you. And if you're not willing to do the hard work to get from point A to point B so that you can actually be a person of your word and change and evolve, it's going to only ever end, maybe not in divorce, but in dissatisfaction, which then translates into divorce for most people because they just can't sit in that uncomfortableness for that long. And you shouldn't. You shouldn't sit in that uncomfortableness for that long.
Yeah. So like,
Discomfort may be a better word than uncomfortableness.
well, yeah. And so you enter into oftentimes your first marriage, in at least in our context of us,
Yeah.
with this pretense of like I'm this person that you're actually not. More often than not, that you walk into it presenting a different version of yourself, and most of us have been like I know for me, I was good enough at hiding the real version of me, like my true desires and needs, to kind of mold them to what I thought she wanted,
Yeah.
which the proper way to do relationships is to know yourself and be so self-aware and in love with yourself, and not in a narcissistic way, but in a way that you care and live out your values. So like
Sure.
self-love is really just somebody that is operating out of values rather
And
than their
integrity.
and integrity rather than insecurities, right?
Yes.
Like people that know themselves well enough to know their operating system, all the shit that they went through, to know their blind spots, and they are making conscious decisions to not operate in those places, and from
Yeah.
those places they have strong values that they've and beliefs that they've ingrained into their life, and they operate from that. And I had the latter. I had strong views and values that I wanted to live by, but I had not done the former, which was actually done the work on myself to figure out who I actually was.
Yeah.
So I wasn't actually capable of doing any of that stuff early on, and so like I gave it the good a good what college try or whatever they say,
Yeah.
like a
Yeah.
good whatever the term is. Like I
The old
gave it a
college
good
try.
yeah,
Yeah.
I tried the best I was capable of trying, and for 8 years I did it, and it wasn't until about halfway through my first marriage that like we've been in therapy for a long time, but over the course of our therapy, a lot of the sessions started turning into like kind of zeroing in on me
Yeah.
and my bullshit.
Sure.
And I started to unpack it. And there was this beautiful thing that happened where I'm like, oh, I'm starting to become aware of the things that I was doing that were not beneficial to kick off our marriage.
Sure.
And as these things are flooding in, I'm deciding to become very vulnerable and honest about it. So we have these therapy sessions, and the therapy sessions quickly become mostly about me. And then as they continued going, my ex-wife then started to weaponize the vulnerability of those sessions, which
Right.
part of that is fair because, I had lied or presented a version of myself that wasn't true.
Yeah.
But as I'm coming to these revelations, somebody that actually would have aligned with my values now would recognize, like, oh, like that wasn't intentional. Like, it's fucked up that he
Yeah. It was
did that,
outside of your control.
but growth, like this situation can operate there can be some forgiveness, and we can actually grow together here. This could actually be
Right.
a moment to build intimacy
Connect. Yeah.
rather than separate us. And so if I had been with somebody that was emotionally mature, but that nobody emotionally mature, it's so funny now because I look back on my life, and when I like the girls that I tried to date that actually had emotional maturity wanted nothing to do with me, and I wrote them off so quickly because I was like, oh, they just aren't, it's just not the right thing.
Yeah.
Not taking any kind of accountability of like, oh
You're a
man, like
walking red flag and they
yeah.
ran the other direction as quickly as possible.
It's so true.
Yeah.
I had, and now I look at my exes and I was like, that's, who I
Fair
was,
enough, ma'am. Fair enough.
who I was is a the mirror of my exes is a brutal one to face.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
like, okay, so we get into marriages oftentimes not know, like presenting the wrong version of us, not knowing who we are, not truly loving ourselves.
Yeah.
That mirror gets held up to us really quickly.
Yes.
Oftentimes we recognize that the marriage should have never like when we get to a point where we recognize the marriage should have never
Should have never
started
been. Yeah.
in the first place,
Right.
that
Now
presents
what?
that presents a different question. So why do people stay in marriages that they know they should get out of? And
Yeah.
we've both been in this situation, so I'm going to let you field that first.
Yeah. I think for me personally, the main reason that I stayed in a marriage that I should have ran from was fear of being alone, fear of starting over, fear of judgment from the outside world. And obviously, my situation was a little bit different too, because it kind of happened in a vacuum. Because when the major event that caused the friction in my marriage happened, I was filming a reality television show, right? So I had cameras at my face and I had to decide, is this going to be something that gets publicized, or am I going to hide this and keep it to myself? So I have a very unique set of circumstances around it. But even if that weren't the case, because when I actually decided to leave 3 years later, it wasn't the case. I still didn't leave for that period of time, even though I was not on the show anymore, because I was afraid. I was afraid of leaving. I was afraid of what it meant for me. I was afraid of starting over and all of the things. And I think that's probably the case for a lot of people, is they're just so afraid of the unknown. They're afraid of the judgment. They're afraid of feeling like a failure. So they stay, and they stay miserable. And ultimately, I think that just never works out for anybody in a positive way. I don't think that anybody ever gets to the place where they just go, okay, it's all right, it's fine. You'll live perpetually in a state of resentment and dissatisfaction. So that's really the shift that was required for me, was to go, okay, I'm not happy. I'm not going to be happy. This situation is never going to change in a way that's going to provide a life for myself that I want. I have to remove myself now. And I think that's where most people get to, is this point of realizing this is only going this way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because for me, uh, I I knew that relatively quickly, and within the first year of my marriage, I grew up in a Christian household, very kind of like volatile religious kind of
Yeah.
situation growing up in Utah, not being Mormon, but being raised in a Southern Baptist church. And then when I
Yeah.
moved to Southern California, I got very ingrained in like the Southern California Christian mega church culture,
Sure.
and I learned a ton. But with that comes a lot of like what's taught to you about marriage
Yeah.
and the importance of marriage and how marriage is, set up in the image of God. And, there's so much guilt and shame that comes around failing at this,
Yeah.
that I was committed to not failing. And
Yeah.
furthermore, I had committed to being okay with a shitty life. Like
Yeah.
when I realized in the first year that I had made a mistake marrying my first wife, for me the solution initially wasn't divorce. I need to get out of this. The solution
Right.
was like, I signed up for this.
I'm going to suffer.
I'm going to live with my decisions, and I'm going to make the best of the situation that I have, but I'm not
Yeah.
going to leave. I'm going to work and try to make it the best I possibly can. Now,
Yeah.
there is that was part of my value system based off the Christian culture I grew up in, and I still would call myself a Christian today, but I genuinely think that that was very misguided because
Sure.
if who I was today was in that situation, like fast forward where I actually spent some time working on myself, I would
Yeah.
have very quickly recognized that the I was leaning on a set of what I would call ideals and values that weren't actually true. Like
Yeah.
they were my excuse for staying in a marriage because I was afraid to leave. I was
Yeah.
afraid to be alone. I was afraid to face the fact that I'd fucked up and feel the shame of what it was like for everybody to be talking about, oh, Derek and his ex got divorced, and all of the things that came with that. Also, genuinely, probably some fear of the repercussions of falling out of favor with God, which had been
Sure.
ingrained with me in me forever. And so, when my first marriage actually ended, I mean, it was this weird dynamic of like my world was crumbling while at the same time I felt fully relieved. Like,
Yeah.
just it was like it was being forced to happen at that point.
Yep.
And so I just felt this relief. But, like you're tied to another person economically. If you get married young and you don't have a bunch of relationships, which I got married when I was 26, but I had a high school girlfriend, and then I didn't date seriously again until I met. So I had like a 5-year stretch where I was just focused on my career in California.
Yeah.
Um, so the byproduct of that is that you go in with I went into my marriage with very little knowledge of how relationships should look and actually operate. And then beyond that, my parents were a terrible, like
Example.
they were a loveless marriage. So I was so willing to just accept an awful life, that, and then this was the monster I knew. Like this was the
Right.
very, this was the, I, I, I knew it was bad, but I also, it was one of the few things that I knew and I could deal with it. Like it
Yep.
sucked, but I could deal with it. So the fear of stepping out of that and potentially into something even worse, which I did with my second marriage. But I can I can genuinely understand why people stay together. And just a side note on this, staying together for the kids. This is probably a long tangent that maybe for a different podcast, because I genuinely had to process this as an adult, because my mom did this with my dad. She stayed with him
Yep.
until, for us, until we all left the house and then divorced, which I fully disagree with. Like,
Yeah.
I am at
Same.
this point in my life, staying together for the kids is not the correct thing to do. And if
No.
you think it is, I think you're fucking wrong, because
Yeah.
you're basically living a lie and showing your kids that it's not good to stand up for yourself, and it's not
Right.
good to make decisions that are your best interest. And furthermore, it's good to stay in potentially terrible, even sometimes borderline abusive relationships, because you're attached to this person with children.
The
And
messaging is so putrid. It's
yeah,
so
it's so
bad.
bad, so bad. So yeah, like I think that's kind of a side note, but I also think generally too, and people stay in marriages for oftentimes all of the wrong reasons, but there is such a fear of not knowing what's on the other side. And
Yep.
there's no way around it. The first year to 2 years coming out of a divorce, and you can speak to this, because I think the first year out of your marriage was pretty bad. Mine was awful. So
Mine wasn't.
wasn't.
Actually, no. The first year out of my divorce was wonderful. Um, but I didn't have children.
That's right.
I was financially set for myself. Like I wasn't struggling financially. So I had very little um like stumbling blocks that I had to get past. As soon as I had my release from my marriage, it was like, and we're off to bigger and better things. And then it never got bad, but I got myself into a situation in a relationship that was totally a result of the strong pendulum swing in the other direction, right? Like the person that I dated immediately after that I was in a relationship with. I dated several people, but the person I got into an actual relationship with after my first marriage, like, could not have been more opposite than the first person I was married to. It in a way that was shocking. I mean, just really startling. And he's dead now. Actually, that sounds really insensitive, but he's dead now. From a
I think now I remember the guy you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was like he was culturally the exact opposite, physically the exact opposite. I mean, just in every possible way, the exact opposite. And so it scratched an itch for me for a little while, in that it was like, oh, this is so different. This is so nice. This is so wonderful. And then so quickly it was like, oh God, I have gone the exact opposite direction way too far. I have to get out. And I did. And it was a very weird exit. It was a very weird evolution. It was weird that he died. It was weird that his family wanted me at the funeral because how that all went down. It was
Yeah.
very weird.
Yeah, in normal life scenarios, I don't try to one up people, but in this one I will, because no, I'm joking. I can't one up death. But my
Yeah.
second wife is a felony, or is a felon. She is
Like
wanted by,
convicted.
yeah, convicted, on the run from the FBI. She is all of the, I mean, she was convicted of a felony
Hey.
while she was not here because she had kidnapped her son from her first marriage
Oh,
and
that's right.
and fled the country, and she has currently not been seen for a very long time. So the
You don't know where she is?
nobody does, and she's been gone, I think, for 6 years now. So
Does she have her child with her?
that's the crux of it. Yeah. So the dad, we haven't communicated in a long time, but when it first was going down, we communicated back and forth because I offered to help if there's anything I could help with,
Yeah,
even just being a character witness. But yeah,
sure.
she has not been found for 6 years.
Listen, I'd rather be in a situation with a dead person than dealing with somebody who's a
Uh,
felon.
Well,
So,
thank God I don't have to deal with it. He was
yeah,
her
thank
son
God.
was not my biological son. I was just
Yeah,
his
stepdad.
stepdad for a
Yeah,
very short
for a
period of
hot
time.
second.
Yeah, and I do care about him. If
Yeah, I'm sure.
I wish I got to be a part of his life. That was probably the saddest part about my second divorce
Yeah,
is knowing that knowing how bad
you were
that
needed.
that kid needed male influence in his life,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
having two guys, me and his actual father, that were very different from each other, but actually could have been very great, like,
friends.
yeah, and influences in his life, but
Yeah,
unfortunately the emotional maturity wasn't there. So,
yeah,
so let's transition to well, one, uh 80% or so of people that go through divorces are remarried within 5 years of their original divorce. And this leads me to believe that people just love falling in love.
yeah,
So I think, obviously people not knowing what marriage looked like the first time through, the idea of a second opportunity at it, I actually think is genuinely exciting for people
sure.
because I know that if for me, like once you've done the work on yourself to understand your blind spots. So if you come out of divorce the right way
Yeah,
and you actually don't focus on the shit your ex was doing, but you actually start to self-reflect and take accountability for your problems, your faults in your
sure.
marriage, and you actually sit with those and process through them. There's a lot of good that can come out of this because when you do that and you actually do the work to uh emotionally grow and fix yourself, the idea of getting married again becomes genuinely exciting. Like and it took me 2 marriages to get to that point, right? But I did ultimately get to the point where did a lot of the hard work, the therapy, all the
Yeah,
books, year of sobriety, did everything I could possibly do to make sure things were right. So, what was the difference? And so for me, when I met Tamara, I actually was like, I don't think I'm gonna get married again.
yeah,
She ultimately changed her mind and decided she wanted to, and I was cool with that. But
yeah,
after your first divorce, did you think that you were going to get married again?
yeah.
And two, what was different going into your second marriage than how you started your first marriage?
Yeah, a lot. I knew I wanted to get married again. There was never a question of like, oh, that was so miserable. I'm never going to do that again. I knew I wanted to get married again. I believed in marriage. I believed it could be good if both people were willing and committed to work on themselves, and had, similar goals and morals and values and all of that. So yes, I wanted to get married again. And what was different the second time going in for me was I had a set of standards that I wasn't budging on. As an example, um, I knew I could not marry somebody who didn't have equally as much value placed on, if not more, following through with commitments of all kinds. Showing up when they say they're going to show up to something, like, hey, I'm going to come to your party, and you actually go. Um, uh, Saying you're going to do something, you're going to take the trash out. It doesn't not happen for 2 days. You do it when you say you're going to do it. Somebody who followed through with commitment. So I had a set of standards that I was not budging on. And if they got violated or not upheld, I was out. And there were a handful of times where that happened between my now husband Shane and I, where I left. We broke up because I was like, no, this is a direct violation of the things that I have set forward that are non-negotiables for me. If this is how you are going to behave and you're okay with this, I am not. See you later. That then triggered a process for evaluation for him to say, is this worth it to me for me to come meet this standard that she has or not? And ultimately, for him, he wanted to be in a relationship with me. And so those were adjustments and changes that he made. And had he not, I would not have reengaged in that relationship at all because I knew it would be doomed if I gave way on that. It was a non-negotiable for me. So hard.
Yeah. Well, right. We all fall in love with potential. So
Yes.
like we, and I think for me, going after doing all the work on myself, I had such a clear head around what I wanted. And it's
Yes.
interesting because I would go out on dates and there was a couple things. The biggest changes for me were one, I was not going to present a version of myself to anybody that wasn't completely honest.
Yeah.
Like, so I was
Take it
intentionally,
or leave it.
yeah, I was intentionally going to tell them about all of the fucked up things that I did and, you know, were part of my life up to this point,
Yeah.
to leave it all on the table because the last thing I wanted going into a third marriage was to have it fall apart because of something that wasn't communicated correctly
Yeah.
or like a misunderstanding or
Sure.
feeling like I'd like with my ex-wives where it felt like I kind of pulled the rug out from under their feet
Yeah.
because I presented a version of myself that wasn't fully honest.
Yeah.
And to give myself a little credit on that, I didn't know myself well enough, but I don't give myself that excuse often because I just hadn't been willing to do the work up to that point. The
Sure.
opportunities in my life to do the work were there. I chose not to take them.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm good. I got this. And it just took two marriages to make me realize, like, oh, I don't got this.
Yeah.
Um, so, and then creating a clear set of values that I was going to actually abide by and find somebody that I like. There is the, the crux of marriage to me is that if you can accept yourself for exactly who you are right now, then you can accept another person for exactly who they are right now.
Yeah.
And I was not ever capable of doing that before. I went into my marriage hoping that the marriage was going to grow and change over time. And to be honest, expecting it to.
Yeah.
Um, expecting my ex-wives to become a person that I wanted them to be, not the person that they actually were at the time.
Yeah.
And I I was, I was let down when the realization of that was, oh, this is never going to change. So I recognized the third time through that I have to adore this person and be okay with all of the quirks and things that are on the table. I'm expecting no change.
Yeah.
And I'm going to let them know that if they expect anything more from me, that it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So, and that kind of approach the third time through was, I mean, it was liberating because I'm like,
Yeah.
look, take it or leave it. Like, this is who I am and who I'm potentially going to be for the rest of my life. And granted, I think if you talk to Tamara, my wife now, that she would probably tell you like she's seeing growth in areas that were important to her. But that wasn't forced growth. That was
Sure.
growth because we
Willing
both
growth.
yeah, we both genuinely love each other, and I've
Yeah.
seen the same thing for her. So, like, like, that open communication and, the first time we met, she was the only woman that I had gone out on dates with that didn't erupt, with criticism about her ex. She was the first person that was like, "Oh, yeah, my ex is still my best friend," and I was like,
Good sign.
"Excuse." I was like, "Excuse me? Tell me more about that."
Yeah. I'm so
Like,
unfamiliar with this concept. You just
I
told
was
me the grass is blue.
yeah, correct. I was like, and fast forward, 6 years and
Y'all are buds.
her ex-husband is one of my best friends too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
there can be, some beauty, in all of this. So,
So that brings me to kind of an interesting topic, and we don't have to spend much time on it, but I wanted to spend a second talking about the concept of after divorce having resentment or ill will towards your ex
hmm,
versus making total peace with whatever is for them, and it doesn't matter, and they can live their best life, and I hope they do. This is something I struggle with because of the way that my marriage dissolved and the betrayal that took place.
Yeah.
I often still I'm damn near 10 years removed from that marriage, and I still find myself like, ugh, angry, pissed off. I want you to suffer the consequences of your choices, and if there was something I could do to make sure that happened, I might do it. You know what I mean? And I don't love that for myself because what that tells me is that I still have unresolved pain over that, because if I didn't, I would just be like, "Whatever, man, I hope you find somebody and I hope you guys live a wonderful life." Whereas I'm like, "Kinda hope your new marriage crashes and burns because you deserve to have that happen to you."
Well, I would say first, you're a human, and
I know.
that's a very human response. You
I
know,
know.
like when 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 somebody hurts you, the instinct is almost always to hurt back, unless you
Yeah,
are Jesus or much closer to Jesus than other people are. So, like, I don't think we can fault that. I think that once you get removed for a long enough period of time, that resentment should then be reflected on yourself. Meaning, like, when you start at flipping the question, whenever I feel myself getting angry at somebody else, I start to ask myself, why is that making me angry?
sure.
And when I start asking that question, that starts the self-reflective process of, because more often than not, and this was actually, this is how this isn't me telling you what to do. This is how I sorted through that with my first wife, because I have 0 resentment towards her. We don't have a co-parenting relationship because our values are off, and,
Yeah,
we don't communicate well, for a number of reasons, but I can genuinely say that I've forgiven her and let go. And I had this beautiful moment where, while I was really struggling to figure out what was going on with my second divorce, and I was having these revelations, I had realized that there was a lot of unspoken expectations by me with my first wife that I never communicated to her, that I held her to.
sure.
So I expected her to be the wife that I had dreamed of when I was a little boy.
Yeah,
So I expected her to show up and do things a certain way. I had expected her to stay with me for a long time. I had expected her to raise our kids and to live this life that I had kind of mapped out in my head from when I was a child, to that point. And all of those expectations were hurled on her subconsciously. Like,
right.
everything that I was doing was pushing to get these expectations met. And when I realized that my inability to forgive her for cheating on me, or cheating, we have different um,
Definitions.
definitions of that, according to her. But uh, when she's connected with another person during the end of, like, that, right before our marriage ended, what I realized that my expectations on her had gone unfulfilled, and I ended up calling her. So I had this moment where I was listening to a sermon on my phone in the middle of the night, and it was on forgiveness. And basically, he unpacked all of this just that way, where it was like, I you're unable to forgive another person, it's because your expectations of that person have not been met.
Yeah,
And the thing that you have to change is your expectations of that person.
yeah,
And so I had to call her and be like, "Hey, like, I want you to know that I'm sorry, and I'm gonna ask you for your forgiveness, because before we got married and when we were married, I had a lot of expectations of you that were completely unfair." And went through, I'd written them all down. I went through a list of things that, everything about, my, gender roles in our marriage, and
sure.
things that I just thought were normal, that I hadn't fully thought through, but that were clearly expectations in my head that I hadn't spoken to her. And this was a critical thing. And it's interesting because when I talked for probably 5 minutes and laid it all out, and, on the other line, I could hear her crying, and this was the only time that we've been, like, genuinely soft with each other ever
Mm,
since our divorce, because in that conversation, she apologized for everything that she did immediately after and was honest with me about everything that happened, and it was the only time she's ever been honest with me, and at that moment, it was all dissolved. The
huh,
entire all of my feelings, it was like a weight lifted off my shoulder, and it doesn't change our dynamic. That's a values issue, which,
yeah,
like, if I was who I was today and we met for the first time now, we wouldn't make it through a coffee meeting before I
totally.
recognize, like, "Oh, we're not gonna be
We're not
friends."
gonna be friends. Yeah,
Yeah, so, like, we don't get along because we never would have gotten along if I was who I am now, but
sure.
it doesn't change the fact that I could forgive her for everything that had happened, and that my expectations played a huge role in that. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, she did some shitty stuff, and she may or may not ever own it. That's out of my control, but I don't wanna walk around for the rest of my life with unforgiveness on my heart, because bitterness doesn't help anything, right? Like,
yeah,
let I don't want, and I didn't want my girls I don't ever want my girls to feel that. I want my girls to
sure.
feel an honest representation of, like, it's okay to not like somebody.
Yeah,
It's not okay to hold a grudge against somebody.
yes, totally, totally, totally. And
Yeah.
I think for me, it's a funny thing because I think because of what happened, there's a part of me that's angry, right? And when you're the person who gets cheated on, you're like, what does that say about me? Am I not good enough? Right. And so you have this kind of complex. So there's some of me that still holds on to that, which is so ridiculous with hindsight because it's like, yes, you're totally worth it. And he was a fucking weirdo and all the things. But I think also my issue is now I know he's remarried to somebody who does not know his past and he has hidden his past from. And that makes me angry and also scared for her.
Yeah. Yeah.
As a woman, I'm like, "Oh my god, run for your fucking life." So there's a part of me that wants to break that up because I don't want her to go through what I went through. It's probably the smallest portion of me because do I really care about someone who's a perfect stranger? Yes, but not that much because you're not capable of like really caring about a stranger. Um, but it's more ego driven and less about goodwill and wanting to help somebody.
Uh, well, there's human nature in that, but then also too, you have to recognize that look, if she, having known your ex, if she was willing to engage in that relationship, then she's got her own demons from her past
100%.
that she hasn't dealt with, because
Yeah, it takes a special person to be married to that guy and think it's a good idea.
yeah, there's a reason me and my ex is attracted to each other, is because all of us were toxic as fuck.
Yes.
So, yeah, and I was a part of that. It was me deciding that I wasn't going to be toxic anymore and participate in it that was the change in all of that.
Yeah.
What they do beyond that is, and, like, if my exes ever come back and show emotional maturity and that they can communicate in this with the same values and things I have, I would be open to, like, having more civil communication and maybe being around each other more, but we don't need it, and we've got a
Yeah.
good setup now. So it's, like, once you know yourself well enough to know your own values and your boundaries and you're living them, I can confidently look around me and just be like, fuck everybody else. I don't need it. And
Yeah.
if I don't need it, then, it doesn't, that's liberating. It
Yeah.
takes it all out of my life. So, all right, let's land this ship on divorce. Do you have any final thoughts you want to get out on our divorce topic for this week? We may end up hitting this randomly throughout over the
Yeah,
course of
we'll come
years,
back
because
to it. This is a meaty topic, but I think generally speaking, divorce can be a great thing. It's a bad thing. It sucks, but it can be a great thing if you let it. And just because divorce is a possibility doesn't mean marriage isn't.
yeah. Yeah, and my final thought for this one would just be like, I can't hit this point home hard enough, is that, and I truly believe this across the board, is that you can only love another person as much as you know and love yourself. And
Agreed.
so if you if you are unwilling to ask yourself hard questions, if you are in a miserable relationship and you are unwilling to search why you are allowing it, why you are part of it, why you are participating in it, and your instinct is to go to blame, I would argue you are incapable of having a healthy relationship.
Yeah.
So, well, we can tie that up there and then end with the best thing that
The
happened this week.
best thing that happened to me this week was I got my Christmas tree up. It makes me so happy. It brings me so much joy and cheer. And actually, I'm realizing this entire podcast, I've had my light changing the color that's being. Can you
Yeah,
see it?
I
White,
can.
blue, white,
Yes.
blue. It's because of my fucking Christmas tree that's on the demo setting that I can't figure out how to get it off the demo setting. But it's beautiful and it makes me happy.
Yeah, you kind of stole mine. But for a different reason. I love getting all of the Christmas shit up because then it's done.
Yeah.
I've checked.
Check it off the list.
It's like when you have 4 kids, they're all expecting it to go up and they're excited for it. And I'm like, oh, it's going to take like 4 hours of a day, but we got into it. We got it done. It's accomplished. And now we are the people that take it down the day after Christmas. People are like, you didn't even wait till New Year's. I'm like, nope. Shit's going away.
Moving on.
And I'm getting it done as quickly as I can, so I do not have to think about it for another year. Yeah. So that's how it goes. Good podcast episode, Hannah. We will what are we talking about next week? Anything exciting?
I have no idea. Which is always exciting. Living by the seat of my pants all the time.
For the 2 subscribers that we currently have, and one of them might be me.
And the other one's me.
They're gonna have to wait until next week to figure out.
Wait and see.
This cliffhanger is gonna kill people.
It's gonna kill people. Kill them.
All right, signing off the Unweighted Podcast. See y'all next week.
Adios.